Hello everyone, welcome to the CloudLearn AWS Zero to Hero series. In this video, this is a day 16th video. In this video, we are going to talk about a feature called life cycle rules. This is also a feature of S3. In this video, we will talk about life cycle rules. What is this life cycle rule? First of all, what is a life cycle? Life cycle is like a kind of starting to ending, right? Starting to ending, initial stage to the final stage. Here, coming to the S3, the life cycle means from the stage object creation to the object deletion. In between these two, there are different phases. We can transition that object from one phase to another phase. Transition means we can move. These lifecycle rules can be used to transition the objects from one storage class to another storage class after a specific number of days from the date of creation. What is this? What exactly the use case of this lifecycle rule? Okay, let us say, assume for easy calculation, for every month there are like 30 days, fixed number of days for easy calculation. So I'm going to upload one object, let us say file1.txt, let us say on January 1st. There's a new object, right? There's a day zero, 1 day old object. Whenever the object is a new, obviously that object will be accessible multiple times. So always it is recommended to keep in the standard storage class. After few days, this object might be old. I mean, the data is old. Very few people might access it, like for reference purpose, like monthly once or so. In such cases, it is not recommended to maintain this object in the standard storage class. It should be in standard IA. It should be in standard IA. Why? In the standard IA, the storage charges are less than the standard. Why should I pay more by keeping the object in the standard storage class? Because the object is not frequently accessed, right? Okay. After few days, this object, no one will access this object, but we need this object to be in the back end, like for 1 year, 10 years or so. Then it has to be moved into Glacier flexible retrieval. And after, like, let us say 180 days, this has to be moved into Glacier deep archive. Let us say after 5 years, that object must be deleted. After 5 years, that object must be deleted. This is the organization policy. So what we have to do every day, we have to log into each and every S3 bucket. We have to check like thousands of objects placed in that. If there is only one object, it is easy. What if there are 1 million plus objects available in the bucket? We have to maintain a huge team to move the objects from one storage class to another storage class manually. But here, with the help of the life cycle rules, with the help of life cycle rules, we can automatically transition. Transition is nothing but moving. We can move. We can transition the objects from one storage class to another storage class after a specific number of days from the date of creation. Means, let us say my organization requirement is after 30 days that object to be moved to standard IA. After 60 days that has to be moved into Glacier flexible retrieval. And after 180 days that has to be moved into Glacier deep archive. After 1 year, it must be deleted permanently. This is the requirement. This is the requirement. And if the bucket is enabled with a versioning, then every object will have two types of object versions. One is a current version. The second one is a non-current version, means latest version and previous version. We can create a separate lifecycle rule for current version of the objects and a non-current version of the objects. Okay, let me write down the points first, then we can check them practically, like how can we create the lifecycle rule and how can we apply the rules for current version and a non-current version of the objects individually. Because we might, if it is a non-current version, means there's already a old data. Why should I maintain in the standard IA, Glacier Instant, flexibility directly? I would like to move that into the Glacier Deep archive as a backup. So we have a different requirements. As per your organizational requirements, we can create individual lifecycle rules for current version of the objects and a non-current version of the objects. Okay, first, what is the use of a lifecycle rules? Lifecycle rule can be used to transition, means move the objects from one storage class to another storage class after a specific number of days from the date of creation. And as I mentioned, we can configure, or I can say we can create the separate life cycle rules for current version of the objects and non-current version of the objects. Also, not only moving from one storage class to another storage class, we can configure the object expiration and permanent deletion of the objects. What is the difference between object expiration and permanent deletion? Object expiration means, let us say if the bucket is enabled with a versioning, then whenever the object has been deleted, it will be marked with a delete marker, right? That is what the object expiration. Like after 365 days, that object will expire, deleted. After, let us say, 3650 days, means 10 years, that object will be permanently deleted, which we cannot recover. So I said object can be moved from one storage class to another storage class, right? Can I move the object from Glacier Deep Archive to standard or one zone IA to standard IA? No. There is an approach, top-down approach. In that order only, we can transition the objects from one storage class to another storage class. Object transition from one storage class to another must be as per the below top-down approach. The first one, standard, right? Then standard IA, means that object can be moved from standard to standard IA. From standard IA, you can move to intelligent tier. From intelligent tier, you can move to one zone IA. And from one zone IA, you can move to Glacier instant retrieval. And from here, you can move to Glacier flexible retrieval. From Glacier flexible retrieval, you can move into Glacier Deep Archive, and that's it. These are the storage classes. But there is no rule that that object has to be moved from all the storage classes. So let us say if the object is in the standard storage class, after 30 days, directly you can move to intelligent tier or one zone IA. You can skip any storage class. But the way is from top to bottom only you can, like directly from standard, you can move them to Glacier Deep Archive. But you cannot move from one zone IA to any of the storage classes which is on top of one zone IA means standard IA intelligent tier. That is what you have to remember. So that let me mention as a note point here. We cannot move the objects from bottom level to, or I can say bottom level storage class to the top level storage class. Only you have to follow from top to bottom, but directly from 1 to 5 or 1 to 3 or 1 to 6 you can, but you cannot go from top to bottom. That is what we have to remember. Now let's check the same lifecycle rules practically. I can say create a life cycle rule on any S3 bucket as per the below requirement. First, we need to define the requirement, right? Without a requirement, you can't create any rules. Okay, so for my organization, I have a individual requirement for current version of the objects and a non-current version of the objects. Okay, first let me write down the current version requirement. By default, the object will be uploaded to standard, and then after 30 days, object must be moved to standard IA. Then after 60 days from the date of object creation, I would like to move it to one zone IA. Then after 90 days, it has to be moved into Glacier Flexible Retrieval. Then after 180 days, I would like to move it into Glacier Deep Archive. And then after 365 days, object must be expired, means delete. So what is this? Let us say on January 1st, object was uploaded to standard storage class. On Feb 1st, it will move to standard IA. Then March 1st, it will move to one zone IA. On April 1st, it will move to Glacier Flexible Retrieval. And then May, June, July. On July, it will move to Glacier Deep Archive. And on Jan 1st next year, that object will be deleted. This is what the requirement. And then I have another requirement for non-current version. Obviously, the object will be first standard. Then after 30 days, I would like to move directly to Glacier Deep Archive after 30 days. Then after 365 days, I would like to delete the object permanently. Here you have to remember only one exemption, like transitioning the objects from one storage class to another storage class is from one zone IA. From one zone IA, you cannot move the object into Glacier Instant Retrieval. There is one what we call that exclusion. We can say exclusion because one zone IA will keep the data in only one availability zone, but Glacier Instant Retrieval you can keep into. I mean, there's a kind of instant Glacier. That's why there is only one exemption. Just you have to remember that. I would like to mention that as a note point. Like we cannot transition the objects from one zone IA to Glacier Instant Retrieval. This is the only exemption which you have to remember. Okay, now let us check practically. Let us do some hands-on. So this is our Amazon account. Let me navigate to the S3 service. So let me create a new bucket. So I would like to give a name as life cycle rules. And what is a let me add some uniqueness for March 2025. And this doesn't matter whether you enable ACLs because we are not making any object public or something. I would like to go with all default options. Here I am not enabling versioning. I will explain why also. I'm keeping the versioning disabled and I'm going to create a bucket. And this bucket is created without versioning enabled. Without versioning enabled. Okay. Which means even though there is no versioning enabled, we can create a lifecycle rule for non-current version of the objects. So that in future, if you enable versioning on the bucket, the lifecycle rule is already exist for non-current version of the objects. Okay, how to create that? Just click on that bucket, then go to management tab. Here is a management. The first option itself is the lifecycle rules. So here click on create lifecycle rule. So I will give a name called my lifecycle rule 1. Now choose a rule scope. Whatever the rule you are going to create, would you like to apply that rule to all the objects or only for few objects? If you want to apply that rule only for few objects, then you have to select the first one. Then for what objects? Here you can mention the rule like DEV. I mean, whatever the object's name starts with DEV, only for those objects this rule will be applied. Or you can create a tag like this environment prod. Whatever the objects are having this particular tag, this rule will be applicable for only those particular objects. Or else you can select this option so that this lifecycle rule will be applied to all the objects available in that particular S3 bucket. So I acknowledge that this rule will apply to all objects in the bucket. And lifecycle rule actions. See here, for current version, no actions defined yet. For non-current version, no actions defined yet. So here, I would like to select this one. What is this? Transition current version of objects between storage classes, means this is for current version, and enable the second one, which is transition non-current version of the objects, means for non-current version also we have created a rule, we have a requirement. Expire current version of the objects, permanently delete non-current version of the objects, and this one, delete expired object delete markers or incomplete multi-part uploads. What is this option is, the last option, that's a kind of a cleanup. Means if you are uploading a huge object, like let us say I'm trying to upload 1 terabyte object. So that 1 terabyte object will be uploaded in multiple parts using an automated feature called multi-part upload. That 1 terabyte object will be splitted into multiple small parts. All will be uploaded and then it will be merged. This all the things will be happens in the backend. While you are uploading, if that upload got failed, means you have incomplete multi-part upload, means some data is exist on your S3 bucket which is corrupted. It will wait to resume that failed multi-part upload. If it doesn't resume after few days, that incomplete multi-part uploads will be cleaned up automatically if you enable this option. Okay, acknowledge that you are okay for transitioning the objects from one storage class to another storage class. You are chargeable. Okay, right. So then see here, transition current version of objects between storage classes. If you click, you can see order, standard IA, intelligent tiering, one zone IA, glacier instant retrieval and all. Okay, I will select standard IA. I will say 30. Means from the date of object creation, after 30 days, it will move to standard IA. Again, add transition. What is the requirement we have? After standard IA, we will move to one zone IA after 60 days, right? Let me open the document. So we configured this one. Now we are going to configure this one. 60 days, one zone IA. So I'm skipping intelligent tiering. 60 days, add transition. Now 90 days, glacier flexible retrieval. So you can see glacier instant retrieval is not available because from one zone IA, you cannot move that into glacier instant retrieval. That is the only exemption. Then after 180 days, it has to be moved to Glacier Deep Archive. That's it. Now, rule for non-current version of the objects. What is the rule? From standard 30 days, Glacier Deep Archive. See here, I'm skipping all and directly I'm going to choose Glacier Deep Archive 30 days. But here we have an option which is an optional number of newer versions to retain. If I say like this, what happens here? There might be 10 non-current version of the objects, 10, 20, 100 or whatever. What it will do is it will maintain the recent two previous versions, or it will exempt the recent two previous versions from transitioning into Glacier Deep Archive. So you can leave it blank, which is the optional one. Then scroll down. Expire current version of the objects means delete the current version of the objects after 365 days. Permanently delete non-current version of the objects 365. Here also I have an optional configuration. If I say one, at least one non-current version object will be retained. It won't be deleted after 365 days. And this is also an optional one. See here, delete incomplete multi-part uploads. I will say it to me. If any multi-part upload got failed, it will wait for 2 days to resume. If it got resumed or it was unable to complete that particular multi-part upload, then that failed multiple parts, incomplete multiple parts will be automatically deleted. So here you can review. Day 0 means in our case today is a day 0. Day 30 means 31st day. 31st day it will move to standard IA. After 60 days from the date of creation, it will move to one zone IA. After 90 days, it will move to Glacier Flexible Retrieval. After 180 days, it will move to Glacier Deep Archive. And after 365 days, object will expire, deleted. And for non-current versions, day 0, object will become a non-current, means previous version. Day 30, 0 newest non-current versions are retained and all other non-current versions will move to Glacier Deep Archive. And on day 365, which is a 366th day for our, like, because this starts from day 0, after completing the day 365, 0 non-current versions are retained and all other non-current versions are permanently deleted. Now here, click on create rule and that's it. And one thing you have to remember, the most important thing, while you are transitioning the objects, only the objects will be transitioned from one storage class to another storage class if the size of the object is 128K. Minimum object size must be 128K, 128 KB. If the object is a simple object like 1 KB or 2 KB, it can't be transitioned from one storage class to another storage class. Default minimum object size for transitioning is 128K. If the object is less than 128K, this rule can't be applied. Okay, right. So this is about life cycle rules. I hope this video is clear to understand the S3 life cycle rules. If you have any questions, feel free to reach me in the comment section and I will answer questions. Thank you, everyone.